Hi, everybody. Welcome to Resilience Building Framework from Lumos Transforms. My name is Rosa Najera. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm currently working in a charter school in South Los Angeles. I also have a private practice for holistic mental health called Self-Integration Guidance. And I'm part of a women's collaborative called We Bloom Long Beach. And it was through that collaboration that we were connected with Lazy Acres. And so this presentation is brought to you in collaboration with Lazy Acres for Men's Health Month. So I do want to say quickly a little bit about the organization that kind of created this workshop. It's called Lumos Transforms. And essentially what we do there is stress, trauma, resilience work with individuals, organizations, and communities. So our tagline is we do embodied change work for self and world transformation. So you can see how this fits perfectly into where we're at in the world today. So today what we're going to be doing is I'm just going to introduce a super micro mini resilience toolkit. And basically that's an approach to stabilize and resource, especially during times of crisis, i.e. this very moment. So the first thing I want to do is I want to invite you all to come into the space, whether you're on your phone, your computer, whether you're at work, wherever you are, just take a moment to listen to the sounds in your environment, whether it's the AC or the children or whatever it is. Just take a moment to kind of notice. Maybe we notice what's inside of our space or even outside of our space. Next, we could even just kind of take a look around and notice some shapes or colors or people or animals that surround us. So just taking that in. And as you're taking in your moment, check into what's shifting inside of you. You might notice the air on your skin. You might notice what you're sitting on. Is it hard or is it soft? So again, we're just coming into contact with the environment in this moment. You might feel more present, a little more alive, or maybe you're just feeling more because it's been a lot. So notice how spending a moment connecting to yourself and your environment can cause a little bit of stilling and helps us open to bring a little bit of space. So what we're going to do today is less about learning resilience tools, because there's plenty of that out there, but more about thinking about how do I think about stress and my responses, right? How do I approach them so that A, they don't take me down, and B, I have enough space to do the work that's being called of all of us in this present moment. That could be personal growth work, it could be collective work, or it could be repair work. We need to have the space to grow. And that's where the Resilience Toolkit and this particular workshop is all about. So it's about giving us what I want to do is give us a perspective, a way to approach that we found works pretty well during times of crisis. So the first thing then is to notice our stress response. And knowing that stress response is normal and expected, right? Because our stress response comes from a very deep biological survival impulse that comes from our body through our emotions and into our thoughts. And in our culture, we'd like to think that our thoughts can control everything. But if that were the case, we'd all be fine. And clearly we're not. Our thoughts are actually very weak against this biological survival impulse. And that's a great reason that we're seeing what we're seeing, that we're feeling what we're feeling. So we could ignore it, or we could learn to become aware of it, we can engage with it, and we could actually work with it. So again, the first thing is whatever's happening, kind of normalizing that, kind of starting from the pandemic times now through uprising times, and probably long before that too. So here's some things that we might be experiencing in this moment or in the past. Maybe we're alert, on guard, nervous for danger, really busy, trying to control things. It's all normal because it's all about kind of defense, protect, and survive, right? It's maybe we're being like a crisis manager where we feel really numb, but we're still taking care of business. Maybe we're irritable. Maybe we're reactive. Maybe we're shut down. Maybe there's so much grief that keeps welling and welling up with loss of life and livelihood, empathy for other people's struggle, change of the way that we were living our lives. There's just so much turbulence and loss that grief then can easily take over. So because these wounds can be so deep and biological, our responses could have worked for us historically, maybe over generations, like having our bodies under stress, under adversity. So we could just notice that sometimes those reactions come up right away because it's reactive. It's in our DNA, so it just kind of shoots out. And it might be useful in the moment, or it might not. So this is the place that we want to work. We want to use our thoughts to see if it's adaptive in the moment and then help you in the moment. Because the reality of the situation is that most of us are over-responding because we're biologically programmed to over-respond because it's better to be safe than sorry. So then our responses come strong and fast. We find ourselves in them. And the good thing is that it's there to protect you. Like if someone's chasing you with the baton, the running is a really great response. But if your child is looking for something from you, maybe helping you with their online work, then running doesn't really fit, right? So then our idea is, how can I find the lowest effective response in any given moment, right? When I over-respond, I'm wasting huge amounts of energy and my life actually becomes harder than I need it to in that moment. So all of my energy that I can have to survive these long-term stressors that I'm dealing in, I need that energy. I need it. I mean, we all do. So that's why we're here today, to really talk about this approach, the Resilience Toolkit approach, right? So the very first thing is, what's my stress response? What's going on? How do I know? So we have this map that helps us to it's a model of our stress response. There's many models. We're just using this one, right? And so the first thing is, what's my stress response? So I'm going to say 3 words that are going to explain these different responses, right? And then you can ask yourself, does this help me in this situation, right? So that I can have the power to choose, right? That's kind of what we're looking at, and be able to move and negotiate out of these different states. So the very first one is settled, spacious, and connected. So just letting those words land, we notice how our body responds, even just to the words. Here we have enough space, we can breathe, our limbs are loose, our muscles are loose. We can think of big ideas, new ideas. We're open to ideas. There's possibility, there's hope. It's a big picture and a long range view. Here I am flexible physically and mentally. I'm a great problem solver here, and there's space for creativity. So you could imagine, like, these are the things that we need in our world right now, right? Our emotions are settled. There's a smoothness to them. Our body is humming along. All our systems are working, our immune system, our digestive system, our hormones. So again, you see how this really fits into Men's Health Month, right? This really is about our health, our collective health. We're connected to our mind, so it's clear and we know how to feel. So we're also connected to other people, whether it's so not only within ourselves, with others, in our community, in our world. And so that works because here the stress is low and the demands are not significant, right? But as the demands grow, we can move into this next phase. This next phase is pressured, mobilized, and reactive. Here, there is a very fast pace, like we feel like we must react. Our adrenaline starts to pump. We're mobilizing more. Our heart rate is beating faster. Our breath everything is fast, fast, fast. There's a sense of pressure. Our muscles are tight. We're in a hurry to act. We have to move. In our thoughts, they also become more and more rigid. We have less options, fewer and fewer options where there's only one option and it's my option. Does this sound at all familiar? I know it does to me. So here, what we're needing during this time, as you can see, is clearly not this, right? Although it's important to be decisive, have a clear path, know what you're doing, but does it make sense in this moment? That's what we're asking. That's what we're wanting to unveil. Everything is very immediate, right? So here we can move on to the next phase, right? As the demands continue to increase, as they have been, you might recognize this phase, which is disconnected, shut down, or numbed. Our movements are no longer useful. We are the farthest away from connection here. We are numb, disconnected from our body, our emotions, our thoughts. Maybe we have blank, we're spacey. In the most extreme form is shock, right? Here it almost feels like our body is literally shutting down all the way that it can shut down all the way to death, right? So you can see this is the most extreme response. This is where depression is. This is where hopelessness is. Maybe it's a little or maybe it's a lot, where it feels like there's no light, where hope is gone. Our body is literally sending a biological message to the brain to shut down. This is where apathy lives, where it looks like it's really calm, but actually it's not. So we might recognize this in ourselves or in other people or our culture at large, right? Even just in how you're responding to social media. Something as simple as that, where maybe before it was something that was bringing you entertainment and connection with others, and now it's an overwhelm, and it's like, I'm just going to shut this off and I'm going to tune out, right? I'm going to go numb. So all those responses are normal, and all those responses have a place. So really what this Resilience Toolkit and workshop is really all about is, how do I know? Is this response helpful for me? How do I know? Because oftentimes we're overestimating threat. And when we're overestimating threat, in a sense, we're wasting our resilience in our overestimation. So we're losing that resilience, we're sleeping on it. And we actually need it to problem solve, to feel more connected in that moment, right? Because here what's happening is our adrenaline is being pumped out. We're not able to rest effectively. We get stuck in a cycle. And that's what we're noticing, that cycle happening within ourselves, within our systems, within our country, within the world, because we are in fact being taxed and taxed and taxed. So when we recognize it, we get a chance to snatch that resilience back, right? So that we can have capacity to meet adversity with strength and flexibility. So if we're not wasting it, we get it back, we get to be more flexible, stronger, because this is long haul work. These changes that we are fighting for, that we are needing, we're not there yet. We still have a long way to go. So in fact, how can we then anchor our resilience to our lowest effective response? This is what we're here to do, and why we're here to do it is there is that flexibility is the key part. There is a difference of I am in a protest. There is a difference. I am a healthcare worker to I'm coming home to my family. There needs to be. And that need is really coming out of when we reclaim our responses, we have better immune function. We have quality sleep and recovery. We have a greater capacity to connect with one another, and we can creatively problem solve. And those are all things we need in this moment more than ever. So then what we do is we say, okay, now I know what the different states are. I kind of have an idea of where I'm in. What can I do to get myself to that state that I want to be in so that I can show up in the way that I want to show up? So we ask ourselves, we all have different tools that we've used, and what we want to know is it working? How do I know it's working? So there's a couple of different things. If we are in pressured or mobilized or reactive state, we want to feel more settled, spacious, and connected, right? So maybe we're going to have a yawn, or maybe our muscles are going to be less tight, or there's going to be a sign. These are all going to be cues, like my eyes are watering or my stomach is gurgling. Those are all signs to know that I'm coming down to a state that is more appropriate for this reaction. And as we know, pressured, mobilized, and reactive has a very big need in our world right now. So we want to know when to use it and when not to use it. And just as if we're spacey disconnected, we are going to move to that pressured place. If you think about it, you are so overwhelmed that you feel nothing. When you kind of come down, you are going to start to feel. So there's a little bit more of that aliveness there, just to kind of give you an idea of what to expect. So now what I want to do is actually practice. Just go through 2 little practices to see, well, let's do it together and see if I notice any kind of down clicking, right, of these responses in me. So the very first one, we already actually did one earlier, which was tuning into our environment, called orienting. So now what I want to do is I want to invite you. You can have your eyes open or you can have your eyes closed, whatever feels comfortable for you. If people are watching or if they're not watching, this is just for you. So when you do, scan your body. Scan your physical body to what feels the best. It could feel glorious, or it can just feel okay, depending on how much pain you have. But something that's better. When you find it, you can ask yourself, are you moving from pressure to spacious, from shut down to alive, right? And if it ever feels uncomfortable, you want to go ahead and stop, right? But when you're in that place, really kind of notice, how big is it? How much space does it take up? What is it connected to in your body? Those are some things that you want to notice. As your attention lingers there, is there a shift for you? How do you know? Well, I want to move us to another tool. It's called settling breath. The good thing is, well, we're already breathing anyways, so it's a nice thing to slide in a lot of different pockets because people don't notice that you're doing it. So that's why I really like using it a lot. So here you can again have your eyes open or closed, and you really want to observe your breathing, right? As you breathe out, your heart rate slows a bit, and as you inhale, it increases. So what would happen if as you're breathing, you make your exhale longer? And again, you ask yourself those questions. Am I moving from pressure to spacious? Am I moving from shut down to mobilize? How do I know what are my particular cues, right? If you noticed any kind of down click. Any of the things I said before, the yawning, the sighing. Just going to turn that timer off. Okay, great. Then that's how you know that you were over responding in that minute there. And with those down clicks, you have snatched a piece of your resilience back, right? So that resilience is going to be so important as we're facing deep systemic problems. We need that creativity, we need that connection, right? So the other things that I wanted to kind of quickly say is, with so much going on, we can become so overwhelmed and not even know kind of what can I do, right? I want to change these systems. I want to improve my physical health. I want to show up the best I can for my loved ones, right? I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. But I can't just be the change isn't enough. I actually have to make the change. So then how can I use these little tiny tools and this framework to flow between being the change and making the change? That is what the Resilience Toolkit is all about. If you want to find out more about the Resilience Toolkit, you're definitely welcome to go to lumostransforms.com. And just think that in the little time that we've shared together, a little breathing, a little tuning in for a couple of seconds can be so transformative. If we do these little acts over and over again, we increase our capacity. And that capacity can lead to better behavior and actions in the world, which can make for wonderful reactions in others because there's that rippling effect. So if you ever feel stuck, tune in to yourself. See if you can find that lowest effective response and show up as the fluidity of being the change and making the change. So again, thank you for listening. Again, my name is Rosa Najera, and find me at Self-Integration Guidance or Lumos Transforms or We Bloom Long Beach. And again, thanks, Lazy Acres.